Hey, got it
Hey,
working.
good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Brian?
Oh, pretty good. Nice to talk to you finally.
Yeah. Yeah, a
Awesome.
little technical difficulties, but we got there.
Yeah, we did. It's a little rough this morning, so
Yeah.
yeah. All right. All right. Awesome. I got my questions already here and stuff, so at
Oh,
least
awesome. I'm
so.
excited.
All right. I am too. I'm doing something a little different this time, so you know.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I think it's different than the videos you normally do, but I'm definitely flattered. I've had a number
Yeah.
of people say that they wanted to interview me, but you're the first person to actually, set up a time. So,
Oh, okay. Awesome. Great. All right. I'm gonna get started, and if that's all right with you.
sounds good.
All right. So I've been watching your YouTube channel. I've been catching up on all your contents and stuff like that. And I just wanted to know, where do you get the idea to start a YouTube channel?
Oh, wow, good question. So, a year or so ago, a year and a few months, um, my fiance and I split up, and I was making a lot of different changes in my life and working through a lot of the anxiety and social anxiety that I had. And I was in a process of pushing myself out of my comfort zone, doing things that were scaring me and were difficult. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to start making videos because speaking is something that has always been a challenge for me. And if I, start putting myself out there, then I can work through some of that. So that was what I did. I I started making videos, and at first it was really terrifying. I was like, oh my gosh, people are looking at me, people are going to be listening to this. And I was like, you know what? This is good. This is good for me to step outside of my comfort zone and push myself. And so I went for it and I kept making videos. And every time I'd make a video, it was like, oh, yeah, I can do this. And I'd feel more confident in my sense of self. And it's just evolved from there. It's kind of become this thing now where as I work through stuff and I have insights and I realize things, I'm like, a lot of other people are appreciating me sharing this. So I don't know, it's kind of turned into its own thing.
Okay. Because I was about to say, because I've watched your first video compared to your last video, and they're just so different from each other. And I find that fascinating to watch somebody YouTube from the very beginning videos all the way to what they're currently producing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. That's
Yeah.
honestly one of my favorite things too. Is like I look back at my old videos and I'm like, whoa, I've come such a long way. And like how cool is that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I saw your latest video, and your latest video where you were getting really, really personal about your sexuality, I believe it was, and you were just real deep with that, and you said you fall in love with the person, and I just found that really, really amazing to me. That was really something really deep that you shared with just the whole world, and I just find that pretty impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not easy. Like even in making that video, that was hard for me and it was terrifying because I think a lot of people, especially people who are bisexual, even when you can feel comfortable about it to a certain degree, there's still sort of this stigma. And everyone I know that's bisexual still has people that they're like, I'm not telling that person. I
Hmm.
don't want everybody to know because I know that I'll be judged really harshly. And I've been doing so much growth lately and realizing that every time that I'm able to share those things that I'm scared that someone's going to judge me for, it's like I set myself a little bit more free. So I made that video and I was feeling really good about it and I posted it and I was like, oh my God, I just put that out there. And then I like panicked and I spent 2 hours kind of like, okay, Tien, it's okay. Like, you did this and I'm really proud of you. And yes, the fact that it's terrifying is what makes it awesome. And I felt so much better after I did that. Like, I just sat with those feelings of like, it's okay. Yes, I'm terrified. And that's also what makes it awesome. So,
Absolutely. I'm about to say because that for me probably was my favorite video because you were so personal and you were so connected with yourself and just everything. I really find that one impressive. That's probably my favorite one because you're just so personal and open. You're so open minded. I could say, you're just really open minded person.
Thank you. I work on it every day. My hardest part is the judgment that I have for myself. I think that's
Yeah,
most of us, though.
I'm pretty sure that is most of us. I would say.
Definitely.
And also the other thing you said was you want to go through life being vulnerable. So can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what is it that made you want to go through life being a little bit vulnerable? If I'm getting this right, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Um, I certainly didn't spend most of my life that way. I was very afraid to be vulnerable, and I was walking through life, like everyone, wearing masks and putting on sort of this facade of who I thought I was supposed to be. And the more that I began working on myself and looking at myself and peeling back layers of why I do the things that I do, it was very clear to me, wow, I have a lot of insecurities. And I don't know if you've heard Brene Brown. She's an amazing speaker and teacher, and there's a really good TED talk that she gave. I believe The Power of Vulnerability, or something like that. I forget the exact title of it, but she talks about how vulnerability is actually your greatest strength. And a lot of people, I think this idea that being vulnerable is actually a strength is something that more and more people are realizing has a lot of power. And so I started thinking, well, okay, I'll put this into practice. And I found that to be true. It's terrifying. Like, it's so terrifying when you do something that stretches you outside of your comfort zone, something that scares you, something that, puts that piece of you out there for other people to see that society has traditionally said is not lovable. Like saying, I have social anxiety and I care what you think about me. That is something that most people are terrified to say. But in saying it, not only is it like, oh, okay, well, now they know. So they're going to judge me or not. Like, at least that's out there. And it's not something that, like, the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about. But more often than not, I'm finding that in sharing that, almost everyone kind of responds with, me too. Or I can totally understand that and I can relate. And then in doing that, it's like it opens up this door to have a deeper conversation. It's not just about, hey, yeah, the weather is good today, and oh yeah, such and such. You find yourself like, yeah, you're a human being, I'm a human being. And we start having a deeper conversation and really connecting with each other. And then in doing that, it's like layers of this pain starts being healed. So
That's a pretty good answer. I can't lie. That's pretty good. It makes sense though. That's what I like about you. You're really a truthful person, and you just get right to the point, and you just make a lot of sense in my mind. That's why I thought you would be a real good person to interview, because to me you just make sense. You make complete sense.
thank you, Brian. That really means a lot to me, because that's always been my goal, is to just put my heart out there and connect with more people. And I think, I don't know, there's this part of me that's had a hard time sometimes with personal growth, because so many people that are sharing these amazing things, they're always selling something, and it's always this image of like, hey, I have the perfect life, you can have the perfect life too, give me money and I'll show you how, and you'll just be healthy and rich and everything will be great. And there's something about that doesn't jive with me. And it's like, you can really be happy and live an amazingly fulfilled, meaningful life, but in that, like, you also have pain and sorrow and difficulty and challenge. And rather than trying to cover it up and hide it and, pretend that that's something that you have to overcome to get to a better place in life, like, it's all of it, you know? It's both of those things, and that's important.
Yeah, I will say, because I can really tell when you're speaking and you do videos, you're really talking from the heart. You're really coming from the heart. It's like 100%. I can see it.
Mm, thank you.
I really can.
When I listen to you too, I get that same sense. It's very cool. It's like I was watching your YouTube channel when you sent it to me, and I was like, I like this guy. You can tell that he has a lot of heart, and he's just being real, and there's something really, really cool about that. And that's one of the reasons that I was like, yeah, I do want to do this interview, because
Awesome.
I like Brian. He's cool.
Yeah, because when I do videos too, I try to be truthful. I don't try sugarcoat anything like some of these other YouTube channels, and I just try to be really real with what I do and what I post and all that.
It shows.
Yeah, and I like your other video where you went with we always need to be right. I like that video. You're like, we always need to be right. You can never be wrong. And what you guys say about that one?
Wow. Ah, man. That's an old video. You've been watching a bunch of them, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been going all the way back through your whole history for a minute. I think about a year ago. Am I right? About a year ago, I think it went back to.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
so cool. I feel so flattered. Thank you.
Yeah, I did
Oh
my
my goodness.
research. I did my research for sure this weekend.
Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, so yeah, I think a lot of people have sort of this unconscious need that we've learned to be right. And they actually there's a psychological, I think, need to be consistent. So it's like that's why you see a lot of people that will say something, maybe not really knowing fully, and they'll say, I believe this, or I think this, or this is how it is, and then find evidence to the contrary, and then it's like they dig their heels in and they're like, oh, I can't backtrack because I have to be consistent, because it's death to admit that I'm wrong. So then it's like they dig their heels in and they're like, no, I'm right, even though like they're feeling bad inside and they're like, oh crap, I was wrong. There's just this fear of admitting that. And I think that if we just let ourselves live unconsciously from that place, then we are not allowing ourselves the space to really grow, because that need to be right controls your choices. And when you actually take a step back and you're willing to say, okay, this is terrifying and vulnerable, but I was wrong. It feels horrible in that moment, but then it's like this relaxation, because from there, then you can actually build a better foundation on top of that and be like, oh, hey, I can be wrong and I'm still okay. A lot of us just don't question that. We just keep doing what we've been taught. So I don't know. That's kind of my thing, is like, it's like challenge everything, question everything. If you feel really afraid to do something, that's probably a sign that there's something amazing for you to learn on the other side of that.
Exactly. Because in that video, I could see like you don't have to be on one side to be right. You don't have to be on the other side to be right. You can meet in between, and you can see different people's point of view and different people's, just I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's what I saw in that video, anyways.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and like I said, you're such a personal person with what you put out there on YouTube and just the content you provide, and even your Facebook. You share and you share inspirational messages, which I really like. Is that how you always start, or was there a point where you have more negative messages than positive?
That's so interesting to put it into the category of negative or positive. I think and it's interesting because that idea of positivity is something that I actually think has become a toxic thing over more recent years, which sounds really weird. Like, how can positivity be toxic? But there's sort of this mentality that's been growing for a long time that says, being negative or feeling bad or feeling down or feeling angry or hurt or any of those things, like those are things that we need to work through. Being anxious, being depressed, having problems, like those are things that we have to overcome to get to a point where we're like, yeah, I've got it under control. Like, life is great. And so when I think about the word positivity, I think about that sometimes, and that's definitely not how I want to portray how I am, because honestly, like, those things that we like to label as negative or bad are actually some of our greatest gifts. Like, for example, my fear. Fear is something that society says we're supposed to overcome and we're supposed to push through. And yes, Neil Donald Walsh said that life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. And that's definitely true. And I'm all about pushing your comfort zone. That said, fear in and of itself has been one of the best gifts of my life. Because if I'd have just, been confident when I was a little kid and everything was easy, it would not have been nearly as powerful or as meaningful as letting fear dictate most of my life, and then learning to work through that and learning that it's not actually a bad thing, and that fear can be turned into the most powerful fuel. And some of my greatest growth and some of my greatest challenges have come from fear. And so rather than like demonizing that and saying, you should be positive and not negative, it's like, so we're going to have bad days and we're going to feel like crap and we're going to do things that we regret. And that doesn't make us a bad person. We still get the ability to choose how we want to show up as, but what we feel and what we're experiencing and what we're going through in and of itself is not bad. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense to me. That really does. Because I guess in life you could never make. In life you could just make different decisions. In life in life you have to make mistakes, and you always have an opportunity kind of to correct those mistakes and learn from the mistakes and keep moving forward to just improve the quality of your life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
That's what I see.
Yes. Yeah, and I think what might be necessarily perceived as positive is just that ability to look at it all and say, you know what, there's good in everything. And I guess that in and of itself is sort of a positive mindset, and that positivity I love and I completely agree with.
Absolutely. I hear you with that. I can't disagree with that one. So, and this is going to be a little bit harder of a question. This is just like, I know you're probably going to be really interested by this question. What makes you who you are?
Wow. I'm still trying to figure that out, Brian.
I hear you.
Oh, man. Wow. I don't know. I think we're sort of a mixed bag of experiences and genetics and upbringing and the people we've spent the most time in our life with and the media that we consume and the thoughts that we think about and the time that we spend looking at ourselves, and there's so many things. What makes me who I am? Oof. My challenges. I honestly think that my challenges and my difficulties and my struggles have made me into the more confident, more powerful, happier, freer person. Because when I was fighting against those things and I was trying to fix them because society told me that I shouldn't be so anxious and I needed to, get out there and make it happen and do all these things that I was struggling with. I was like, I don't know how. Like, this is too hard for me, but I know I should be better. And I was like beating myself up. When I was doing that, I was getting nowhere. And I was completely depressed. And then when I stopped doing that, and I think it was Alan Watts, I was listening to some of his old talks, and he was the first person that ever introduced this idea to me that, like, hey, maybe the things that we judge as bad are not bad. And as I started really thinking about that and letting that in and processing that and being like, whoa, I don't have to beat myself up for these things. I can love these aspects of myself. It was like everything started shifting. And my whole life I was like, oh, I haven't been able to feel confident because I've been so stuck in this, like, why am I not confident? It's like, oh, wait, no, I'm not confident. Hey, I can be confident in the fact that I'm not confident. I can find confidence in the fact that I'm willing to accept that I'm afraid, like that. And once I started doing that, all the things that I was trying so hard to get by like forcing them, they started actually showing up in my life. And it's beautiful because it's not like, woohoo, I'm happy and I'm fixed and life is great and perfect now. It's like, No, life is amazing. It is 1,000 times better than I ever imagined it could be. I'm in a relationship that blows my mind every day. My boyfriend is incredible, and I'm healthy and I'm really happy, and I'm making more money than I've ever made, and like life is just really good. And I also feel like total shit sometimes, and I get angry and I beat myself up for crappy things that I would have liked to have done differently. And I struggle and I still have massive amounts of anxiety. And some days I wake up and I think, do people even like me? That's okay. They're not mutually exclusive. Like, we're not supposed to just be this picture perfect box all the time. We're everything.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Because that takes me back to a video that you did. Like this probably was another year ago. Be kind to service workers because you don't know what kind of a crappy, shitty day they had before they interacted with you that day. And that's what you just said right there took me back to that video.
Hmm. That's interesting because that is something that has been a challenge for me my whole life, in the sense that I have been on both sides of it. You know, people that I grew up with, I was in an environment where people would get really, really angry and they'd blow up at service workers. And I would see that and I would feel really shitty inside. And then I kind of learned that habit myself. And so I had done that in the past. And then I worked, in a customer service job for many, many years. And I had that happen to me. And it was like I was on both sides of it. And yet it was just this pattern. It's like, we get really, really angry and we get really upset, and we just come from that place. We don't stop and take the time to look at, like, why am I feeling so upset? Why am I feeling so angry? Why do I feel the need to blow up at this person? And so it's interesting that you bring this up. Like, this is actually a very sensitive topic for me, because I grew up having this ingrained belief that anger is a bad thing, and feeling really ashamed whenever my anger would show. And whenever I would act from a place of anger and it would come out of me and I felt like I was losing control, I'd be like, oh, I'm such a bad person. And I spent days beating myself up for being angry. And so this is something that I'm actually still continuing to work through, because I've still got that belief. That'll happen with me. And then I'm like, Tien, you did it again. Like, you let your anger get the better of you. And what I'm having to realize and work on is, it's like, okay, when I'm having that anger come up, taking a step back and being like, okay, I'm feeling really pissed off. How do I want to act, first of all? And just imagining, like, letting myself throw a tantrum in my head, which sounds kind of crazy because, like, but still, just not actually acting on it, but being like, I want to blame this person, and I want to blame that person, and I want to yell at this person, and I want to, and imagining all of that in my head and letting myself go the full distance with it until I get to that point where it's like, okay, I let myself feel all of that, because anger in and of itself is not about emotion. It's here to tell us something. It's here to teach us something about ourselves. And when we fight against it, when we start to get angry and we're like, no, don't feel angry, and we try to push it down, it gets bigger, it gets worse. We don't get the message. We don't learn from it. So it's about allowing ourselves to feel it without necessarily acting on it in the moment, which is hard. And we're still going to do that because we're human beings. But getting better over time at, like, allowing ourselves to feel that and then be like, okay, now I feel a little relief. I acknowledge that I feel this and it's okay. And now I'm going to sit with it and ask myself, okay, what is it I'm really angry at? Oh, I'm not angry at anyone else. I'm angry at myself because I didn't make the decision that I wanted to make. And I'm doing something that I don't want to do right now. And I'm compromising my own integrity. Oh crap. Wow. Interesting. And then when you're in that space of introspection and really willingness to look at why you're feeling what you're feeling, you get the opportunity to make a different choice. And then instead of going and blowing up at someone, you can come from a place of genuine compassion. So, but the hardest part is having genuine compassion for yourself when you don't stop and take the time to do that, and your anger does come out and you're like, dang it, I did it again.
Yeah, because that was one of that was one of the more that was one of the videos that actually stuck with me. Be kind to service workers, because I've been there too. I've done Uber, I've done Lyft, I've done all those service type jobs, and when people are mad at you because the GPS didn't work right, or they put in the wrong location and all this other stuff, and it's just like, okay, that's not my fault, but I have to remember to calm down and keep it moving and just be like, okay, my fault.
Yeah, well, it's hard. It's hard because when it isn't your fault, as when you're in a service job and you're trying to help someone and they're just angry and they're upset and they're angry and upset about something else entirely. It's probably something that happened earlier, or something that's been building up over the last month. They're angry at their spouse, or their work sucks, or they're feeling helpless in some area of their life and powerless. Usually a lot of times that's what it is the feeling of powerlessness. And so they just are reactive because they're in that space. They've made a choice. They're not really thinking about what they're doing. They're just upset. They just want something to be different. It's not different. They're not angry about what they think they're angry about, and then they kind of just like throw up their anger all over you. And that's also one of the hardest things to do, is to be able to be like, okay, they're angry. How can I have compassion for this person and recognize, wow, I've been there too, so.
Yeah, it's like on both sides, sometimes like, you pick one and the other. I don't know what to say about that one, but.
Well, I mean, see, that's all the gray area of life that a lot of people we don't talk about it like that a lot. Like, a lot of us are just like, things are black and white. This is how they are. And even I do it sometimes, where it's like, I'll talk in absolutes, and then I kind of have to take a step back and realize later, well, actually, you know what? There's more to it than that. There's not just two sides to the situation. There's actually like 10 different sides to the situation, depending on how you look at it. And I don't know, in my opinion, that compassion comes from a willingness to look beyond just the surface of things. And that's not always easy to do.
Yeah, it's not. It's not for sure, but I usually try to be, compassionate and nice and calm and peaceful to people, but sometimes it doesn't work out, but usually it does,
Yeah, same, exactly.
Okay, yeah. Same. Yeah, and the last video of yours I watched that was from far back, when you would just drive around singing in your car. Is that something you often do just to relax yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
I love doing that. There's something really about music. I love all different kinds of music, but there's something about music that just makes you feel happy, that I don't know, I love listening to. And a lot of times, I'll just be going through life and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine right now, and I'll put on music that makes me feel good, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, life's great, and I love that. I love it too, because when I'm in that space and I look over and somebody's like, I'm like, hey, and then they start laughing, and then like I've made their day a little brighter by just being willing to be ridiculous. So.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like that too. I like to drive. Usually, if I'm driving around late, doing whatever, picking up people, what have you, and the road is nice and clear, just be driving around singing. It's pretty fun, like you said. It's a pretty fun thing to do.
It is, and it's funny because my used to drive my ex crazy that I would do that and embarrass him, and I'd be all dancing and happy. He'd just be like, oh, people are gonna stare at us. And I remember one time he was just like, please stop, and I was like, oh, you want me to stop? And then I started being like, ah, and just like doing dinosaur moves, and he was just like sinking down in his seat.
Jacket just goes over his face. That's awesome. I would do the same thing. I was like, nah, I'm gonna sing louder.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kindred spirit.
Exactly. And that's pretty much all my questions I had for you. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
Just thank you so much for wanting to interview me. I think this is so cool. I haven't done a live interview like this with someone on video, and this was stretching myself a little bit outside of my comfort zone, because usually when I make my videos, I'll just like be sitting there and I'll get to think, and then I'll stop, and then I'll, and I can add this, and then I can edit it and remove stuff. Whereas like here, it's like, I'm on the spot. So this has been amazing growth for me, and I really appreciate it. And I think it just shows what kind of an amazing person you are, that you're listening to this and it resonates with you and it makes sense to you, because I think it's so easy to go through life, you know, just doing whatever's in front of you and not stopping to look at yourself. And the fact that this, you know, interests you is really cool. And I can see what an amazing heart you have, and I think it's so cool that you're putting yourself out there and making videos and sharing, and it's just been really great getting to talk with you, so thank you.
All right, awesome. I mean, and one other thing before we depart or whatever you want to call it, say our goodbye, but goodbyes are a good thing sometimes, you know. Um, how do you say your last name? Because I'm not sure.
Oh,
I'm not good at names, and I don't want to mess up your last name.
it's okay. So my name, my full name is Tien, like TNT without the last T, so Tien.
Okay.
And then my last name is Frogget, which is French, which constantly gets turned into Frogget. I'm so used to it, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. But yeah, Tien
Okay.
Frogget. So thanks for asking. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
No problem, because I wasn't sure. I was like, well, I don't want to butcher the name. At least if I butcher it now, I'm like, well, that was my fault.
Yeah, no, don't even. Everybody butchers it. I'm used to it. It's totally fine.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I truly, deeply appreciate it. I see a lot of your insights. I see we have a lot of similarities in ways and a lot of differences in ways, but that what makes us all human. So it's been great to talk to you, and I hope you have a great, happy New Year, happy 2020, and I hope we could do this again sometime, possibly in the future.
Definitely. I would be more than happy to do that. Thank you so much,
All
Brian. Hope you
all
have
right,
a very
awesome.
happy new year.
You too. All right, thank you so much.
Definitely.